Gobble, 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 gobble. Happy Turkey Day, kids!
Happy Turkey Day Eve! As we record here on November the 27th, amateur night,
Yes.
as some of us call it. Wednesday night, November the 27th, your latest episode of your favorite politically incorrect sports commentary show, Sports Frenzy 2.0. Finished version will drop early on Thanksgiving, November the 28th. Hope, first and foremost, all of our friends out there in podcast land have a joyous, fun, and great Thanksgiving, except for the Lions fans! Fuck the Lions fans!
We're hoping for an upset.
A big, glorious, never gonna happen upset, but still.
Really? I'm torn. I would love to see the Bears win, but I also want another loss as another nail in Eberflus's coffin to get him the hell out.
They're not gonna win. They're not going to win. No way in holy hell. That I told you, that Vikings game last week,
That was their one shot.
which we're going to get to in a second, that was the last best shot they had at winning a game the rest of the year. That was it. So let's go into it right now.
Sure,
As we
why not?
Recap week 13, or week 12, I'm sorry.
Week 12, yes.
Of the NFL slate. Week 13 is coming up, starting tomorrow, again with a triple header on Turkey Day. But yes, I had a feeling the Bears would put up a fight. I don't trust Sam Darnold. I don't necessarily trust the Vikings, but they are a competent, well-run organization right now.
They're pretty well coached.
Yes. Both on head coach, defensive side with Brian Flores. They overcome the shortcomings of their quarterback. And now, of course, they brought in Daniel Jones to back up Sam Darnold. And
Really? Is that's not really...
the quarterback room in Minnesota is like the island of misfit toys.
It's very inept in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yep. But Sam Darnold's making it work. He's earning himself a lot of money for next year, whether it's with Minnesota or somebody else.
Yeah.
But sheer competence, lack of mistakes, will beat the Bears every time.
Yep. The Bears can be relied on to beat themselves.
The one play that kept the Bears alive was the fluky onside kick.
The first recovered onside kick of the season.
Because the Bears were down 10 with just a few minutes to go in the game. They go back, score a touchdown, get the onside recovery, kick the field goal to send the game to overtime. Soldier Field, the fans are going crazy. Oh my God, finally, maybe this long losing streak is going to come to an end.
Yeah, no.
And then they took a big fat dump on they win the coin toss.
Yeah, they get the ball, and Williams takes the worst sack that you could possibly imagine.
For as good as he looked
all game.
Now, we, of course, did not get to see the Bears.
No, locally we got screwed because the Colts had to be aired against the Lions.
So once that game mercifully ended rather quickly, we got to see most of the highlights of the end of the Bears game and the overtime.
Yeah.
So we got to see most of the significant positive stuff and negative stuff for the Bears.
Yeah. And I know Williams was looking for that last home run throw downfield, and he ran out of time, and just a rookie mistake.
But that seems to be his one problem this year.
It's taking the sack.
He is so afraid, and I don't want to say it's 100% negative, but he is so afraid to turn the ball over, to force the ball in somewhere where it shouldn't go, that his turnovers are low.
That's the Eberflus effect.
He scared him. He's got him scared.
Eberflus is all about complementary football. We're going to take the ball away on defense, but we're not going to turn it over on offense. And you know how afraid Eberflus is of turnovers. That's why they didn't run the extra play against Green Bay. We could have thrown an interception. We could have fumbled the ball. We could have. If you're that fucking scared, you should not be a head coach.
Yeah, so like you said, I think he is ingrained that right now. I think it can still be coached out of him because we saw, once we had the switchover with the offensive coordinators, how Caleb started to run the ball more.
Yeah.
Which was a huge bonus.
He's getting the plays earlier so he can look over the defensive setup. He has time to process now and call audibles and set up. They're not in a fire drill mode all the time.
And another encouraging thing from this game was finally, for maybe the first time this entire season, we saw a lot of targets for all the main receivers.
Yeah, spread around. Komet, Moore, Dunze, Allen, Swift, they were all getting the ball.
That way, keep everybody happy, because yes, we have to massage egos.
Keep them happy, but also you're keeping the defense off balance if they don't know who to focus in on. All options are open.
But yeah, because of that disastrous opening drive in overtime, the Bears have to punt the ball back to the Vikings. Vikings basically take advantage of the defense, which is starting to show some wear and tear and some cracks.
They're not being put in the right positions either. Eberflus is calling some very bad setups.
So the Vikings drive down the field, kick a field goal, win the game in overtime, 30-27. So the Bears fall to 4-7. Pretty much you can say bye-bye to any playoff chances and hello to a top 10 draft pick.
And hello to a new head coach.
And that better be a goddamn offensive lineman.
Yeah, no shit.
Protect your most important investment.
Yeah.
Then this is a game, we didn't have a lot on our slate, so we'll kind of bounce between this and the other games, because the early slate this past Sunday, it was the 24th, looked awful. And some of the games ended up being a lot. Dallas ends up beating Washington.
How the hell that happened, I don't know.
Carolina pushes the Chiefs to the end of the game again. I mean, it ended up being a lot better in the early games than I thought they were going to be. They were closer than you
thought they would be.
The Titans beat the Texans.
Yeah, how? What?
So just a lot of weird.
Week 12 chaos.
Yep. But then we get to the late games where we had a lot better games. But this one I blew. You were right in that I did not take the Brock Purdy injury seriously enough, because this was a joke. The Packers just embarrassed the 49ers at Lambeau 38-10. Allen wasn't ready, or he's just not competent enough to be a starting quarterback.
Yeah, that was just a miserable experience for the Niners.
Yep. They had no chance in holy hell. And their defense
is not good.
It's, I would say, vastly overrated this year.
Yeah. Now, Bosa being out, really, is that they should be able to overcome one.
Well, now they're saying that Fred Warner's got a broken ankle he's playing on. I'm not saying they're making excuses, but they have had a lot of injuries this year.
They have. So they have become very pedestrian.
And the thing is, I don't think they're making the playoffs.
No,
they have a brutal schedule. They get one easy week with a certain team from Chicago. But beyond that, brutal schedule.
If they're still looking like this, the Bears have a shot.
You would think Brock Purdy would be back by now, but I've heard speculation, not just with the 49ers, but a lot of other teams. With the longer schedule, Now, of course, 17 games, and they want to go 18. We're going to start to see a problem like we see in the NBA.
Yep, where you're going to start resting guys mid-season.
The 49ers, they're saying if the 49ers lose again this week, which it looks like they are going to, and badly, as they go to Orchard Park to play the Bills. We'll get to that pick in a minute. But they're going to get to the point where they're going to shut down Purdy, shut down McCaffrey, shut down almost the entire team.
Why wouldn't you? There's nothing to play for.
Yeah. It's just a bad year. We've seen it in the NBA, as I mentioned, with teams like San Antonio. We've seen it with teams like Golden State.
Yep.
Take the higher draft pick. Go into tankathon mode. The league might not like it, but in terms of business, it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah. You got to protect the big guns at the same time.
Now, that being said, I just want to say I don't believe in the Packers. I don't believe in the Packers at all.
No, it's hard to.
I'm going to say something very controversial. I know that's shocking.
No, not you.
In the NFC, you have the Lions, you have the Eagles, and then the Eagles are probably second. You know who in my humble opinion, who the third best team in the NFC is right now?
Seattle.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I would have said that if Tampa can be healthy.
Well, they've got Evans back now, and they blew the doors off of the Giants. I know that's not a very impressive accomplishment.
No, but they took care of business.
If Todd Bowles had somehow earlier this season been able to figure out a way to coach against the Falcons, because those two games are going to come back and bite him in the ass. If it wasn't for those two games,
they would be sitting pretty.
Yes. And they've got a cake schedule the rest of the way. They play, the Panthers this week. Where the Falcons have to play the Chargers. So you could be looking at 6-6 for both the Buccaneers and the Falcons at the end of this weekend. But the Falcons have the tiebreaker. I'm telling you, the Buccaneers are the third best team in the NFC right now. I don't know what to make of what's going on out west.
Out west is
6-5,
chaos.
6-5, 5-6, 5-6. The 49ers, as we mentioned, are one loss away from probably folding up the tents.
They're all beating up on each other.
I don't trust the Washington Commanders.
No,
they're on a skid right now.
We knew that was going to come crashing to a halt.
And this all comes back to the point I was going to make. I don't trust the Packers. Jordan Love has a tendency to make the big mistake. If you shut down Josh Jacobs, look at the numbers. Maybe a little bit of a fantasy thing. Or
look at the last few years. The Packers have made their offense by running the ball.
But look at all these great young. Maybe Aaron Rodgers was onto something. God help me for saying that. But look at all these young receivers that were supposed to finally in this, second, third year in the system with Wicks, Jaden Reed,
Watkins,
Watson.
Watson.
Yeah, Dobbs. Where are they? You look at their numbers; they're non-existent.
They're very pedestrian.
Tucker Kraft at tight end.
Yeah, there's not a lot going on the receiving game. It's all about the running game.
And I've already said I don't trust Sam Darnold with the Vikings, so I'm just telling you right now, you're looking at basically a collision course between the Eagles and the Lions in the NFC.
That'll be one hell of a game.
Now, we mentioned the NFC West. Another monkey wrench gets thrown in there as the Seahawks hold home court. The Cardinals are schizophrenic.
They are just... I don't know what to make of them. They're very... Like you said, schizophrenic.
Some
They're
weeks
all over
they
the
look
place.
like they can beat almost anybody.
Other weeks they look like a doormat.
In a very low-scoring game in Seattle, Seahawks win 16-6. So now they have forced a tie atop the NFC West, and they have the tiebreaker.
They do.
So right now the Seahawks are your number one seed in terms of division champion for the NFC West. We just mentioned the Eagles, and of course the Rams come into play in the NFC West.
Yep. That's another team that you can't make heads or tails out of with the Rams. One week they look great, and another they look awful.
And I think now they're fully healthy. They have no excuses left.
No, none.
At least on the offensive side. The problem is, I think, that defense. They lost Aaron Donald, and it seems like it has devastated that defense. Because, yes, like many of you out there, I got Barkley'd in fantasy football this past weekend. I played... Now, a couple weeks ago, I had to play the man to my right. That's the conquistador Dave Height, by the way.
Thank you. That's the maestro Kevin Crane.
Couple weeks ago, I had to play him in fantasy football. Again, he is the top man, the top dog, defending champion. He's number one again in our league this year right now. A couple weeks ago, I had to play him when Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase went off.
Yeah, what, 89 points between the two of them?
So I took that body blow. And then this past weekend, I had to play Aaron, who had Saquon Barkley. So I lost by 50 points. And it's like, Jesus Christ! This is my year to take it right up the poop chute.
You flirting with maybe not making the Final Four.
I've got to keep the streak alive. I've got to keep the streak alive. Both my waiver claims went through this week to, again, reshuffle my pathetic running back crew. So we'll see what happens. We shall see. But yes, of course, in our 8-team league, I am the one with the most points against.
A lot of that came up in the last couple weeks.
Yeah. So yeah, the Rams came out looking okay. And then Saquon Barkley took over, and it was just game over.
It was game over, and then the Eagles' defense... They made Matthew Stafford their tackling dummy. He took a lot of sacks and a lot of hits.
Yep, so that was the first of 2 games over the weekend at SoFi Stadium. Eagles on Sunday Night Football beat the Rams 37-20. Then we go to Monday night, November the 25th, where we switch to the Chargers playing at SoFi Stadium against
the Ravens. So it was the Harbaugh Bowl.
And again, the LA team comes out looking really good there early.
Yep, and then they kind of flitter away.
Now, I've been saying this. The Ravens end up winning 30-23. The thing with the Chargers, and I've been saying this throughout the season, is that they are a year away. Yeah. They need to have an off season where they spend money, get some tools for Justin Herbert, get him some weapons, because now J.K. Dobbins hurts a knee. Now they have nothing in terms of running backs.
Done.
They've got Quentin Johnson, this young kid who can't catch a ball to save his life. Ladd McConkey looks good. But
it's all once. You can't go one way all the time.
I heard somebody make a great suggestion for next year for the Chargers. T. Higgins.
Why not?
Get T. Higgins in there for Justin Herbert. Ladd McConkey is number 2.
There you go. That's a good base.
See if you can get another running back in there. Somebody you can depend on. J.K. Dobbins has had a great year, but the knee issues are always going to be there.
Yeah. That's limited him severely.
The Ravens win in what I was thinking was pretty much a must-win game for them if they have any hopes of catching the Steelers for the AFC North title.
Yep. And that's takes care of our slate.
Well, we have our teams outside of the Bears.
Yep.
Good week for our teams in Florida.
Yes. Miami took care of the Patriots, thankfully.
Yep, they won 34-15. Couple interesting little notes for the Dolphins. Rumors are that Shaq Barrett has applied to be reinstated after putting in his retirement papers. And, of course, the Dolphins have his rights. So that could bolster that defense a little bit more.
That would be a huge help.
I have not heard if they have approved. I don't see why they wouldn't.
I would think they would.
As long as he stays with the Dolphins.
Yeah, there's no issue.
And then this was a borderline dumbass move for me. I know it happens all the time, but I just can't stand the fact that this makes Tyreek Hill look better. That those idiot officers did not show up in court to try to prove their case against Tyreek Hill and the traffic citations.
So they weren't there, so everything gets dismissed. That's
And again, I know this happens all the time, but in this type of high-profile case, show up. And all the media's doing, oh, see, this just proves that they knew they were wrong and they didn't want to have to testify.
This just proves that they were
court.
paid off. I'm saying money exchanged hands. Yes, I'm going conspiracy. I'm saying the NFL...
It's on camera. We've all seen the entire exchange.
Tyreek Hill was a douchebag who didn't listen. He was an asshole from the beginning and was treated as he should have been.
I tend to agree with you. There could be something a little hinky going on here. Maybe not money exchanging hands.
But there's something going on.
But maybe their higher up got some pressure and said, don't even bother going to court.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
We just want this to go away. And like I mentioned, I'm still high on my Buccaneers. They are now 5-6. Only one game out of the lead in the NFC South after trouncing Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets, and the New York Giants at MetLife Stadium, which makes it all that more impressive, 30-7.
Yeah.
And, by the way, can I just tell you, I love fucking Baker Mayfield. I love Baker Mayfield. God damn it.
He was the one quarterback coming out that I thought, all right, this guy could be something special. He landed in that shithole of Cleveland, and he
took him a couple years to dig his way out.
Had to get out of that situation, and finally has found where he belongs.
We love him. We love him. Love Baker.
He's showing what he's able to do.
Love Baker Mayfield. That's why I am so high on the Buccaneers. And by the way, on the other side of the coin, the flip side, how bad are the New York Giants? The New York Giants have not held a lead in a football game for over 50 days.
Ouch.
And now they're turning to Drew Lock by all accounts.
Oh, God.
Third quarterback in 3 games.
And you can't go back to Daniel Jones because he is now in Minnesota.
Yep.
So,
they mutually agreed to release him, the Giants and Daniel Jones, and the Vikings end up picking him up to back up Sam Darnold. We mentioned Saquon Barkley, his phenomenal game on Sunday Night Football against the Rams at SoFi Stadium, 255 yards rushing, not even counting the touchdowns. Not even counting the reception yards that destroyed me in fantasy football. But, number one, we have to give props to Saquon Barkley and start talking about him seriously.
As the MVP.
And number two, point out that 255-yard rushing effort, 9th all time.
As we had just had a discussion about the all-time rushing games not too long ago.
Yep. Little bit of sports frenzy karma there. We've got one big injury to report this week. The Raiders are the Raiders. I still feel bad for Gardner Minshew. He's never really gotten on the right team at the right time.
No, he's... Yeah.
Now, I still think he's going to be in the league for another 5 or 6 years as a backup.
Yeah.
because there are so few good backup quarterbacks. Ask the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, amen.
Ask the New York Giants. But Gardner Minshew breaks his collarbone for the Raiders.
Ouch.
So they're gonna
his season is done.
they're gonna reinstate Aiden O'Connell for the Black Friday game against the Chiefs. Good luck with that. And then we, of course, have our weekly crime blotter in the NFL.
Bum, 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 bum.
Los Angeles Rams wide receiver Demarcus Robinson was arrested just hours after that Sunday night loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, arrested on suspicion of DUI.
Drinking his sorrows away.
But, of course, they get treated better than us. So he's going to play this Sunday.
Oh, well, of course.
They basically said, oh, we'll just give you a citation. Call somebody to come pick you up and take you home.
Yeah, must be nice. Anybody else would have been arrested.
And then before we get to this week's picks, the NFL has pulled the big bold move for the first time since they changed their media bylaws and made it something that was available to them. It sucks for the fans because the fans don't matter.
Nope. Nobody cares about the fans.
Week 16 game between the Broncos and the Chargers has been flexed from Sunday to Thursday night football.
Ouch!
So good luck if you had
What the hell
hotel reservations or a plane flight in.
That is just awful.
We're not talking about flexing a Sunday afternoon game
To a Sunday afternoon.
or a Sunday night.
Or night. Or night to afternoon.
Right.
Same day is one thing. A completely different day is absolute bullshit.
Well, this is the
influence
and the power that Amazon Prime has in their new partnership with the NFL.
Horrible. Disgusting. Amazon should be on the hook for giving everybody their money back.
Somebody did propose that. Somebody said the NFL should step up and refund money. Ticket money, hotel room money,
to those
plane
who aren't
flight
able,
money,
yeah.
to those who can't
or have
jump
to
from a
readjust
Sunday
everything.
to a Thursday.
If anybody's flying out, come on. That is absolute crap.
But again, we always tell you, doesn't matter if we're talking about the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, or on the weekend edition,
Concerts. Fans don't matter.
By the way, don't forget to check out the weekend edition, Sports Frenzy 2.0. If you love our politically incorrect sports commentary, you will adore and admire beyond belief
The politically incorrect pop culture commentary that we bring you.
every Saturday morning.
Your hangover cure.
And you're going to need it with Turkey Day, after which you're going to have to subject yourself to with all the snowflake liberal relatives who are going to be whining and bitching and pissing and moaning. You're going to be drinking from Thursday night all the way through Friday. You will definitely need us on Saturday morning.
Oh, all right. Now we have to gear up for this week's picks, our slate of games. Kicking off, we're only picking one of the Thanksgiving Day games.
Yes, I tried to show restraint between the fact that we have rivalry week in college football, and then we have 3 Turkey Day games, and then the full slate.
And
I stuck by my guns and said I'm only going to put the best possible games on the slate. So no Bears-Lions, no Cowboys-Giants.
That's just going to be a shit show from hell.
And I don't even know how good the Thursday night game is going to be on Turkey Day here, as the Dolphins go to Lambeau Field to play the Packers.
Miami is playing better of late. Tua's back. They're starting to gel more offensively. It's going to be cold. It's going to be cold and miserable in Lambeau.
That means the Dolphins don't stand a chance in holy hell.
Yeah, they struggle when it's cold.
Packers across the board. We have all 8 of our
All
panelists.
8. Holy cow! Write this down.
Because they don't want to deal with this shit. They got it all done and out of the way because they want to enjoy their holiday like everybody.
Yep. So Packers across the board.
Sunday, December the 1st.
Chargers at the Falcons. This was a tough one. Very difficult.
I have already mentioned, as we recapped the Ravens-Chargers game, my problems with the Chargers, and I think they're a year away. And Jim Harbaugh is doing a great job. Justin Herbert looks revitalized, looks like the young stud quarterback we all thought he was before Brandon Staley poisoned him.
And then you've got the Falcons, who
they're underachieving.
Who knows what
if
to
they're
make
not
of
playing
this
the
team.
Buccaneers, if they're not playing the Buccaneers,
They
you
suck.
have to say they're an underachieving team.
Yeah, they are.
With all the talent they have, it's amazing to me that Raheem Morris, in his second chance here, hasn't been able to take a bigger step forward with this Falcon squad.
Especially with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins does
Kyle
not
Pitts,
look...
Darnell Mooney, Drake London, Bijan Ross. I mean, come on.
This is a stacked offense, and they're mediocre.
Yep. And Raheem Morris is a defensive coach, so the defense should be better. Of course, Bears fans know how that works.
It doesn't necessarily.
This is what I'm looking at for my pick. Falcons have had a week to rest, a week to regroup. Chargers are on a short week, flying across the country. And I know you say, oh, it doesn't work both ways.
It does.
Now with the loss of J.K. Dobbins for the Chargers.
Yeah, I missed the Dobbins news when I made this pick.
And Gus Edwards, by statistical measures, is the worst running back in the NFL.
Without Dobbins in there, I would have gone the other way. I missed that. But I took the Chargers.
Well, you're not alone. I'm in the minority.
With Bill, Jen, Nick, and Aaron.
Falcons for me and Sam and Doug. I just think this is going to be a field goal game. The Chargers are favored by 2 as we're recording. I don't like that. I don't think that's right. This would be the week where the Falcons will step up and win a game they need to win.
Yeah, they need it. We'll see if they actually do.
Nobody believes in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well,
to a point.
To a point.
Steelers go into Cincinnati to play the Bengals.
I know the Bengals defense.
And we say this every week.
Susceptible. But the Steelers offense isn't anything to write home about.
No, it's field goals. You've got Boswell on your fantasy team.
They get in field goal range and kick it.
Russell Wilson gave him a little spark for a couple weeks, and now that offense is settled back into mediocrity.
Yeah.
You saw last week where all of a sudden Mike Tomlin second-guessing himself, putting Justin Fields in certain packages, in certain,
situations.
Yeah. So does that cast doubt into the confidence for Russell Wilson?
Maybe, but you got to look at the weather last week, too, with the snow. Passing was out of
game. Such a glorious game.
Passing was out of the equation, so it became a running game. And who's better at the running game in the quarterback slot? Fields. Probably should have gone with him more.
So the Steelers go to Cincinnati to play the desperate Bengals. I know we've been saying that
coming
since week
off the
2.
bye.
Yeah, we've been saying that since week 2, that the Bengals are desperate.
And they're putting up offensively. But their defense just has been letting them down.
Yeah, and the thing is, now the Bengals they don't have this running back by committee. Chase Brown is now the man. T. Higgins is back and healthy. You've got Jamar Chase. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense, while it's good,
isn't great.
So, at home, once again, in a must-win situation, I will take the Bengals.
Yep, so will I. Well, let's tell you, everybody takes the Bengals except for Bill and Jen and Aaron. There you go.
Yep, so 5-3 for the Bengals. Cardinals at the Vikings. This should tell you how little faith and trust we have in the 6-5 Arizona Cardinals.
Ugh.
We mentioned earlier they're schizophrenic as they lost in Seattle to the Seahawks, only putting up 6 points.
Yep, coming on the road again to Minnesota. Watch, this will be a week where they shine.
Yeah, it'll be indoors, so weather won't be a factor, despite the fact it's in Minnesota.
Yep, but still, all being said, Vikings across the board for our panelists.
Now, I will say this, to be selfish, because God damn it, one of the many cogs that fell apart in my fantasy team last week was one Justin Jefferson. Now, I know Jalen Johnson's great, but that was inexcusable on his part. I am expecting Justin Jefferson to explode this week as if he was a penis in a Steel Panther video. I am expecting 10 catches, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns minimum from him. There is no way he shits the bed 2 weeks in a row like that.
No, he shouldn't against the Cardinals.
Oh, by the way, we're going to be talking about Steel Panther on the weekend edition.
Yes, we will. Oh, God.
So, yeah, Vikings across the board. Nobody with any faith in the Cardinals whatsoever. Colts at the Patriots.
Here's another shit show.
And the weather should be abysmal.
Gloriously abysmal.
And that's why I'm taking the Patriots, is because after what I saw from Anthony Richardson, he had the one great week against the vastly overrated Jets defense.
Oh, my God.
Who've already given up and packed it in for the year.
Yeah.
Then we see him revert back to form. I'm sorry, I'd write him off. He's done. He's had enough time now. He has shown me next to nothing.
Yeah, forget it. You have to move on. I don't even think he's a reclamation project.
No, I don't see it in him. I don't see but he's got a cannon for an arm, but he's inaccurate. And he turns the ball over.
Yeah, there's no development happening.
And while the Patriots aren't that good, but I will take Drake May at home over the inaccurate, overrated Anthony Richardson.
I couldn't make a decision on this. This was my coin flip game of the week. Heads for the Patriots, tails for the Colts, and it came up tails.
Yeah, and we're split evenly here, so I'm taking the Patriots along with Jen, Doug, and Aaron.
Yep, I've got the Colts along with Sam, Bill, and Nick. So we'll see how things roll out.
This was a tricky game. Very tricky game here. The Rams now, after getting shellacked at home on Sunday Night Football against the Eagles, go to New Orleans to play the Saints, who have won 2 in a row after the head coaching change.
I still can't believe in the Saints.
I think the one thing that the Saints did that's going to hurt them is at the trade deadline, they were sellers, and they got rid of Marshawn Lattimore. They're one really good cover cornerback.
Yeah.
And now you got to go up against Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford should be able to pick that secondary apart.
That's what I was looking at on this. The Saints defense isn't there in the secondary.
Now, the Rams defense isn't all that either, but I would say I would take a singular focus and say, shut down Alvin Kamara. Don't let Taysom Hill play his little trick play games with you.
Yeah, no.
Make Derek Carr beat you in the passing game.
Yeah.
They don't have Chris Olave.
You know when Taysom Hill comes in, he's running the ball. Don't even defend the pass. Make him throw the ball. Go one-on-one coverage when Taysom Hill's in. Load the box and stuff him.
I would let Derek Carr try to throw to Marquez Valdez-Scantling because that's all they've got right now.
Yeah. Shut that down. There you go.
Yep. So you and I have got the Rams along with Sam. That's Jen, Nick, and Aaron.
Yep.
Saints for Doug and for Bill. Massive, huge, big game.
Huge game.
Eagles at the Ravens in Baltimore.
Wow.
I will admit I have been biased this year. I'm torn with the Ravens. I love the Ravens. I love the makeup of the team. I love the way they play. But we've talked about...
They're not as strong defensively as they've been in the past.
Oh, not even close. But we've also talked about this whole MVP debate.
Right.
And we mentioned how now Saquon Barkley needs to be seriously considered for MVP. So does Derrick Henry.
Yes, both these running backs.
And can we stop a little bit with the Lamar Jackson hype?
Please stop the Lamar Jackson hype.
We need to pull in the reins a little bit. He is not, I'm sorry, not a 3-time MVP.
No. No, he
The man has
not.
not even gotten to a Super Bowl yet. Now, that being said, this is the year he could prove it to me. He's got Derrick Henry now. Prove it to me.
Barkley and Henry are very comparable in their yardage and touchdowns.
Barkley's got more in the passing game.
Yeah.
Rushing, you're right. Almost identical.
Almost identical. Barkley has it on the receiving end.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Henry's got one or two more touchdowns rushing. Henry's got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Barkley's
Henry
got
leads.
more statistical advantage in terms of the passing game.
Yeah.
By far. Barkley's on a pace to get nearly 3,000 yards from scrimmage. But that Derrick Henry still is making a huge difference for that Baltimore Ravens offense. And I've been on their bandwagon ever since week 1. Even they should have beaten the Chiefs.
They should have.
What was it? Likely needed to get that other foot in.
Everybody's letting the Chiefs off the hook.
And the Ravens have had some bad games. They have been beaten by some teams. What, the Raiders beat them? Come on.
Yeah, there's losses that should not have happened.
The Eagles are due for a loss.
That's how I'm looking at this one. They've been playing so well, they're due to have a comeback to earth moment. On the road in Baltimore. There you go.
So everybody but Bill and Jen taking the Ravens.
Yep,
they are going with Philly.
So should be a really good game. The last one we have on our slate.
A month ago looked like a very tasty matchup.
Yep, this could have had Super Bowl implications.
Yes, Super Bowl preview. Yep.
But alas, as we discussed, the 49ers are a shell of what they were and were expected to be, going to Orchard Park to take on the Bills, who are starting to fire on all cylinders right now.
And they're coming off a bye week, right?
And coming off a bye.
Rested.
Well rested.
Bad weather.
Bills across the board.
And this, I think, will put the final nail in the coffin for the 49ers.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, what's to stop them from folding up the tents and just calling it quits for the year?
Yeah.
Sitting,
take it and
sitting Purdy, heal up the shoulders, sitting McCaffrey, heal up the calves and the Achilles.
Yep. So we'll see what happens.
All right, moving on to college football. Now we're going to, of course, because we pick a lot more college football games than pro games. When we do our recap of last week, we're not going to cover every game. We will talk about our teams, both 10-1.
Yep.
The Notre Dame Fighting Irish beat Army 49-14. So they have moved up in the AP poll to number 5. They are also number 5 in the latest CFP rankings.
Yep. But if you go with the seeding for the 12-team playoff, because conference champions come into play, and then who's ahead of them in there, Notre Dame would be at 7. Miami right now is sitting as the ACC champ with the first round bye.
Yep, they're 8th in the AP, 6th in the CFP. But as you mentioned, all that matters is making the final cut for the CFP in that top 12. Miami would be, I believe, the 3rd seed
Yeah.
if they win the ACC. Boise State gets the final bye as the highest ranked conference champion projected. They're ahead of the Big 12, the best Big 12 team. So they would get in the Mountain West that final slot over the Big 12.
Yeah.
But there is still a long way to go. Long way to go.
We've got the last weekend and then the conference championships.
Now, we've had a couple things happen here before we get to our recap and then our games for this week. Ironically, a day after Mack Brown said that he is coming back to coach,
he was planning to.
The North Carolina Tar Heels, the next day, they fire him.
Yep, they said, nope, we're going in a different direction next year. You can finish out this last game. Undecided about the bowl game. Why wouldn't you let him just finish it out?
Oh, I think they will. I think it'll get to that point. And, of course, this is the rivalry week, so, of course, this game that will close out the regular season is against North Carolina State.
Yep.
Now, the other thing, I don't believe we discussed this last week, because you and I think, are both really pissed off at Lane Kiffin right now, because we both had the Runnin' Rebs in the Final Four.
Yes, we did.
In our season predictions, and now that's not going to come to play, as they have lost 3 games now, and they most likely, unless there's an absolute abject miracle, they will not make the Final 12.
No.
But he had some words of wisdom here within the last week or so that I want to bring up. I'm not going to quote him, but I'm going to just give you the gist of what he was saying. And I'm going to point out one team in particular in the top 6 in the CFP rankings to prove his point. Lane Kiffin has now said, you get to this point with only a couple games left in the regular season, there are certain teams, if you don't have a shot of being in your conference's championship game, why would you want to be in it? Because all it's going to do is hurt your chances to make the Final 12. Case in point, he did not mention this team by name, but I will. 4th in the CFP rankings right now, Penn State. All Penn State has to do this week is beat Maryland at home. They don't have to worry about choking or losing a conference championship game.
No.
So think about it. Right now, Oregon and Ohio State are on track as the top 2 teams.
They're going to be facing off again
in the Big Ten championship game. If Ohio State were to lose again, 2 losses to Oregon, but still 2 losses, Penn State would only have 1.
Yep.
They never had to put themselves on the line in that extra game. So what Lane Kiffin is saying makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Clemson is in the same situation in the ACC. If Miami wins, if SMU wins, they will face off in the ACC title game. If Clemson beats South Carolina, they get to sit back.
They're sitting pretty and waiting for the fallout.
Yep. Because either Miami or SMU is going to have 2 losses. They're sitting there with 2 losses, but they didn't have to play that extra game. So I think we're going to see a lot of controversy here.
Now, as this is all unfolding, do the conferences now think, oh shit, do we really need a conference championship game anymore if it's going to screw us from having more opportunity to bring a national championship to our conference?
There you go. Another
Why
factor.
are you subjecting yourself to this?
And we knew when everybody said, well, this will take a lot of the arguments out of the equation, whereas we were wondering who are the 4 best teams. When we let 12 in, no, you're still dealing with issues where you might get a 3-loss team
in the top 12.
Now, I'll tell you who benefited this past weekend as we go to our picks. Looking back at Saturday, November the 23rd, Ohio State beat Indiana. Okay.
Yep, they did. Indiana did themselves no favors on special teams.
Indiana had held with Ohio State for about a quarter and a half.
Until kicking issues. Gave up the punt return for a touchdown, and then gave up another huge kick return, setting up an easy touchdown, screwing the defense.
But Indiana is going to be now another beneficiary of what Lane Kiffin was talking about.
Yep.
Now, what helped them out was a lot of teams in that 12, 13, 14 range. Texas A&M losing. We'll get to that in a second. A lot of teams stumbled. So now Indiana, with one loss, doesn't get to play in the Big Ten championship.
Nope. But they're sitting pretty as a potential outside looking in.
If they beat Purdue, which they should win the Oaken Bucket, no problem. They'll go 11-1, and that should qualify them in the top 12. But again, they don't have to play the extra game. And I'm sorry, I love IU. I love the story. Kurt Signetti, great coach. Love him.
But
if they had to play Ohio State again or they had to play Oregon, they would lose.
They would lose. They would probably beat Penn State.
That would be an interesting game. That would be a very interesting game. So Ohio State looking good. They have to beat Michigan, of course, which they should be able to do this.
Should, but the big rivalry that it is, you never know what can happen.
Yep. Oh, my man, Greg Schiano. Oh, God.
I'm done with you!
We had this game. Dave and I had Rutgers last week. They had this game in the bag, and they let it slip through their fingers. They had Illinois dead to rights, and the defense fell apart at the end, let up a touchdown.
Greg Schiano Eberflused himself.
So Illinois escapes with a 38-31 victory over Rutgers. Should not have happened. That was the most disappointing game of the week.
Yeah.
I was rooting for Indiana, but they were outclassed. Rutgers should have beaten Illinois.
Yes, they should have.
Arizona State, as I predicted, took care of business against BYU, who's slipping and sliding a little bit, 28-23.
Yep, so much for thinking they were going to come back, but no.
So the Big 12 is a little bit of a mess right now because...
Dun, dun, dun. Frickin' Kansas, once again, with the upset, taking out Dion and the Colorado Buffaloes.
37-21.
That was a dominant win right from the beginning.
So again, the SEC and the Big 12.
Mass
whereas
chaos.
the Big 10 and the ACC picture's a little clearer. We don't know what's going to end up happening in the SEC. We don't know what's going to end up happening in the Big 12. Now Texas, if they beat Texas A&M, they're in.
Yeah.
Should be playing Georgia.
Should. We'll see how that rolls.
And of course, we mentioned Texas A&M in 4 overtimes. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 overtimes.
Overtimes lose to Auburn.
43-41.
Ugh.
You want to talk about a team that I do not trust? Texas A&M. One day next year, maybe when we've got a slow week before the season starts, Dave and I are going to put together our list of the 5 teams, the 5 top teams we don't trust in college football.
Good Lord. Just 5?
Yeah, we might have to go top 10. We might have to go
Good
top 10.
grief. There are so many that we don't trust on a weekly basis. It's not even funny.
We got a gift from Iowa State. They barely held on to beat Utah. It was a gift because the elder statesman, went on an island on that one. So
Yep, that allowed us to pick a game up on him.
yeah, Bill and Sam are way ahead in football picks. So Dave and I made up a little bit of ground this week on games like that. And, of course, the great and glorious Duke Blue Devils came through for us.
Field goal win over Vatech.
Duke is a good team, I'm
They're
telling
a
you.
decent team.
Rivalry on the West Coast. USC in an ugly game beats UCLA 19-13. Who cares?
Yep, nobody.
And then, of course, Colorado State shits the bed for me. You pick up a game on me there with Fresno State.
Yep, so after these picks, I pull up to tie with you for third.
We're 8 out.
8 games back now. We
Yep.
picked up a few.
Yep. Yeah, Bill is still in first. Sam is 1 behind, and then we are 8 back.
Yep.
So we need to get, I would say the magic number for us is 5.
If we can get within
Before the
5
great equalizer.
before the great equalizer, which is all the bowl games that are picked.
And we will pick every one.
Every single
Division
bowl
One
game.
bowl game.
Which includes every CFP game as well.
Yep. So, as Dave is wont to say,
There's a chance.
So you're
saying there's a chance.
all right, now we will give you all of our picks here for this week. And of course, if you miss for some reason, if you have to go to the bathroom, you forgot to hit pause, we will have these posted Thanksgiving night on the Facebook page.
All right. Starting off with Minnesota at Wisconsin. I hate these two fucking
I
teams.
knew you were going to say that. They would make our top 10.
Oh my God, yes they would.
Friday, November the 29th.
Wisconsin.
I think my hatred for Wisconsin runs deeper than my hatred for Minnesota.
Oh my God. Minnesota's been on a decent little run. Wisconsin just is coming off a blowout at Nebraska.
Blowout loss.
Or a loss, yes. Wisconsin, I took Wisconsin because they play a little better at home. Minnesota not so much on the road. Minnesota's due for a tumble. This is one of those fluky Wisconsin come-ups.
So Wisconsin for you and Sam and Aaron, everybody else, the other 5 panelists taking Minnesota. Again,
They're both going to wind up at 500, and this will put them both right there.
I think that's the one thing that scared me about this game is that
They both suck.
I think Wisconsin needs this game to be bowl eligible, where Minnesota doesn't. But I just think Minnesota is the better team.
They are the better team, but on the road, I don't like them.
All right. Battle of Ohio. We pick this game pretty much every year, rivalry week.
We do. Miami of Ohio and at Bowling Green this year.
You and I like Miami of Ohio along with Doug, but everybody else...
Going with Bowling Green.
They're only a 2-point favorite.
That's nothing. That's nothing.
From what I saw in my research, Miami
Bowling
of Ohio,
Green has let me down when I've picked them in the past in this game.
Isn't that our old buddy Randy's school?
Yes. All right. Then we get Nebraska at Iowa in a Big Ten matchup.
Now, I think this is a letdown week for Nebraska. They qualified for a bowl. The blowout loss you mentioned.
They blew out Wisconsin.
So now I think this is a letdown game for them. Whereas Iowa wants to make a statement, try to get back into the top 25.
Yeah,
Nebraska's just happy that they are going bowling.
Yeah. So everybody's taking Iowa except for Nick, who's taking Nebraska.
Moving on to Saturday, November the 30th. This is a good game. This is a great game.
The
implications for this. SEC.
This is huge.
SEC versus ACC. Rivalry game in South Carolina. Number 16, South Carolina.
At number 12, Clemson.
I'm riding the Cox, baby. Riding the Cox.
So, Sam and Doug, I was almost there with you. It came down Clemson at home.
So you've got Clemson along with Bill, Jen, Nick, and Aaron.
Yep, I almost went with South Carolina. They're not as strong on the road.
I just think they've been playing better, and I don't trust Clemson. I just don't.
Yeah, it's
They've
that's going to be
struggled a
one of
lot
those
this year.
fluky games.
Yep. Louisville at Kentucky, the Battle of Kentucky in rivalry week.
Yep, and everybody's going with Louisville except Jen is going with Kentucky.
Kansas at Baylor.
You know, conventional wisdom would say Kansas is on a roll. They've been knocking off all the big dogs. Why not ride them one more time? No, it's got to come to an end at some point. They're not that good.
Yes, they are. They have been good. As of the beginning of 2023, this program has turned around. They are much better than they were when they were the doormat of the Big 12.
But they are due for a letdown.
And Baylor's going to give it to them?
At home, yes.
No, I've got
This
Kansas.
is a letdown game.
I've got Kansas along with Doug and Aaron.
The rest of us going with Baylor.
West Virginia at Texas Tech. Not really a rivalry, but
No, it's not, but it's one to throw in there.
Texas Tech, of course, we seem to pick every week. And West Virginia, for that matter.
Yeah, we have been of late.
I like West Virginia a little bit better. This would be the perfect spot for Texas Tech to shit the bed.
It would be, but you know me. When in doubt, take the home team.
I've got West Virginia along with Jen and Nick. Everybody else taking
the
Texas
Red Raiders.
Tech. Yep.
All right.
Pittsburgh at Boston College. Now, it's amazing to me that just about a month and a half ago, Pittsburgh was, I believe, in the top 25.
They were, and they have just fallen apart.
And last week, Boston College with a very impressive win against, I believe, North Carolina.
Yes.
So Bill O'Brien has got maybe the ship righted here in his first year in Boston College.
Seems to be. So everybody's going Boston College except for Nick and Aaron going with Pittsburgh.
Kind of shocked that this one actually fell within my restrictions when it comes to point spreads.
Yeah.
Only 7.5 points for number 5 Notre Dame going out to the West Coast to play the USC Trojans. Now,
That's because this is one of those games that
this is a
you
rivalry.
never know. This is one of the true rivalries.
Yep. That being said, nobody's taking the Trojans. Nobody.
No.
Notre Dame across the board.
Yeah, nobody believes that Lincoln Riley will have anything defensively, even if it is noodle arm throwing passes.
Here's another one across the board. Arkansas at number 24, Missouri. It's only a 3-point spread.
That kind of surprised me.
Missouri's getting the 3 for being the home team, but we're all taking Mizzou.
Yep, no faith in Arkansas at this late stage.
Well, here's Rutgers.
Here it is!
Rutgers again. Michigan State at home up in East Lansing.
I'm done! I'm out, Jerry. I'm off Rutgers.
Well, you notice who I picked. I'm with you. The Spartans have been playing better as of late.
Yep.
I think that loss to Illinois, plus Rutgers is already bowl eligible.
Yeah.
Michigan State, I believe, needs
They
this.
need this, so Michigan State for you, me, Jen, Nick, and Doug. Rutgers for Aaron, Sam, and Bill. Good luck to you.
Battle of North Carolina. NC State at North Carolina. We mentioned that Mack Brown has been dismissed, but will be coaching in this game. I think the players will show up for him.
That's why I took North Carolina. The players want to see him go out on a high note.
Actually, everybody but Sam agrees with us.
Yep.
Sam is going with NC State. The rest of us take the Tar Heels. TCU at Cincinnati, another couple teams that, God, just
Trash.
The bane of my existence.
Trash teams.
I'm taking Cincinnati because, again, I think they need the game more than TCU does.
I don't have any faith in Cincinnati this year.
I will admit they're weaker this year than they have been in the past few years. But there's got to be a motivating factor here when it comes to making bowl games.
Maybe,
You know?
but I don't think they have it.
Well, Aaron and Nick agree with me. TCU for you, Sam, Bill, Jen, and Doug.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Two massive major programs underachieving this year beyond belief. Now, Oklahoma has at least got a couple signature wins over the last few weeks to hang their hat on. But this is a home game for LSU. Brian Kelly and LSU.
God help me for saying this. I'm taking the better head coach.
Yeah, this was a tough one for me.
This was.
Now this one is where I looked at the point spread and as opposed to some of the games we've just discussed, I'm like, LSU's got 6 points. This should be a field goal game.
Yeah, this is just.
But yeah, I'm with you. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go with LSU at home.
Yep. So we've got Jen, Doug, and Aaron going with Oklahoma. LSU for the rest of us.
By the way, did you know Brian Kelly is top 10 all time in college football coaching wins?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, because of his years at Cincinnati, where he was
You
beaten up
combined
on.
Cincinnati and Notre Dame. Yep. I saw that and I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, it's his time at Cincinnati and the school before.
I think it was in a story talking about Mack Brown getting
Yeah.
fired and where he's sitting all time. And I saw Brian Kelly in the top 10. I'm like, Brian Kelly?
Yeah.
Brian Kelly is on the verge of passing Nick Saban, I believe.
For the success that he had at Cincinnati and whatever stop he was at before. Crazy.
All right. A crucial key game in the SEC. Whoever wins this game will be in the championship game, most likely playing Georgia. Georgia should be able to beat Georgia Tech in their rivalry game. Number 3, Texas at number 20, Texas A&M.
Frickin'
Wouldn't
A&M.
this just be the perfect spot for A&M
to win?
Yeah.
That thought lurked as I'm picking this one. I'm like, this would make total sense for them to win this game, handing Texas their second loss.
The only one that believes that upset's going to happen is Doug. The rest of us, begrudgingly, maybe a little bit, are taking Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns. Kansas State at number 17, Iowa State. Now I'm going completely opposite sanity and logic here.
Iowa State fucks us in every big game.
And
Always.
On paper, Kansas State arguably is the better team.
Yes, agree. You and I are the only ones looking at that.
Now, a lot of people are making the argument that Iowa State wants this game at home because they could get into the convoluted mess, somehow come out the other end and be in the Big 12 championship game. But Kansas State actually has a shot as well.
Yes.
That's what people are forgetting.
They're forgetting Kansas State is in line as well.
So both teams need this game. I still think Kansas State is the better team.
So do I. And I don't trust Iowa State in this situation.
I agree.
They've hosed us how many damn times?
I agree. So you and I are taking Kansas State. Everybody else on the panel taking Iowa State.
Yep. I'm taking Kansas. I'm against Iowa State more than I am for Kansas State. Let's put it that way.
Then finally, Battle of Virginia. Virginia at Virginia Tech. I'm kind of surprised here. This is one of the bigger point spreads. Va Tech favored by a touchdown, yet we have 3 dissenters who are going with the Cavaliers.
Yep, Nick, Doug, and Aaron taking Virginia while the rest of us going with the Hokies.
Yeah, this was one of the easier picks.
Yes.
I was like, yeah,
this is boom, yeah.
Vatek should win this one. So there you go. There are our picks for Rivalry Week.
Boom. Done.
We are done with football.
But we're not done with you yet.
No. We have still got to talk about the first big signing in Major League Baseball. We still got NASCAR and racing news, basketball news.
There's so much left here on Spotify, Good Pods, Pocket Casts, Apple, Overcast, CastBox, Amazon, Audible, and iHeart Sports Frenzy, baby.
Let us turn our attention.
Better known as iHeartRadio.
Yes, thank you. Don't forget to check out the Facebook page again.
And
Football picks every Thursday night. Unless we tell you otherwise, every Thursday night you can see a graphical interpretation of all of our picks. Although this week, everybody had their picks in, so
boom.
Kind of redundant. So let's move on to the beginning. Maybe the temperature is starting to turn up on that hot stove.
Is the hot stove going from off to maybe simmer?
But just keep in mind, Dave and I have already found issues and problems with the first big signing of the off-season. All right, so if you people haven't figured it out by now, we hate the LA Dodgers. We hate the New York Yankees. We hate the big market teams that spend. Now, is it all their fault? No. Major League Baseball needs leadership to stop this crap.
They have had no leadership for decades.
We had a commissioner who turned his head, turned a blind eye to steroids because the Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds stuff generated awesome gates, awesome viewership at home. They will do anything and everything they can to stay relevant. Now, Dave and I bitched and pissed and moaned last year about the Shohei Ohtani deal.
Deferring all that money.
Where technically he's getting paid, what, $2 million a year?
Yeah, while he's playing.
And how many tens of millions every year getting deferred? Now, I've come up with a theory on this, which we'll get to in a second. But why does this matter now, since that was a year ago? Because the Dodgers have struck again.
Yep, adding pitcher
Blake
Snell. Ugh!
I don't want no Rona. If you have ever listened to this man speak,
he's an idiot.
He has fewer brain cells than a retarded rat. He looks like a retarded rat, by the way. Yet he has scored a victory for Scott Boras. God fucking help us all. Doing that whole let's take a short-term deal thing, and it worked out for him. He gets a 5-year, $182 million deal from, yes, the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Ugh.
Now, there is deferred money in there. I have not been able to absolutely 100% confirm it, but by my sources, about a third of that contract, roughly $60 million, will be just like Shohei Ohtani's deal, deferred. Now, my theory about this is that the Dodgers are trying to weasel their way around the exorbitant state taxes in California.
Yep, trying to maximize the money for the player. Because when they're done playing, when all this money kicks in, they're not going to be in California anymore.
Yep. So
somebody may not even be in the United States anymore.
So Dave and I, pre-show, we're bouncing around this theory, talking about Texas is no tax. That's why the Rangers just won a title. That's why the Astros have won titles. Now, Florida's a different situation. Those teams are just trash and garbage, and we'll get to the Rays.
They just won't spend.
New York, you have other opportunities. New York, you have so much advertising revenue that you can bring in as an individual athlete that can kind of offset.
Right.
But of course, you have that in LA as well. But the Dodgers, being so clever, cheaters.
And you don't have a commissioner with the balls to say, end the deferment. Strike the competitive balance, Manfred.
Speaking of which, tying in that weak leadership with the latest update with the Tampa Bay Rays, the St. Petersburg City Council voted to put in $23 million to repair Tropicana Field, and then hours later reversed course, pulling that money back off the table. So now everything involving the Tampa Bay Rays is in limbo. We don't know if they're going to get a new stadium. We don't know if Tropicana Field is going to get repaired. All we know is this year the Rays are going to be playing in a minor league baseball stadium.
Let's face it.
While the A's are playing in a minor league baseball stadium.
Let's face it. Florida baseball is a fucking joke.
Yeah.
It is. I don't care that the Marlins have won a couple World Series. It's a joke.
And the Rays have been competitive
joke.
Despite the fact they don't spend money.
Yeah, Florida baseball is trash overall.
I cannot believe I'm going to say this. It's a shame that we can't move the Rays back to Montreal.
There you
and
go.
Start up the Expos again. Because I have no problem with that.
No.
Give these players, give this organization a chance to win. Put them somewhere where they will actually bring in revenue, draw fans, bring in revenue, and then spend money to make the team viable and relevant. The Marlins are a lost cause. You're going to keep a team in Miami. There's no way you're not going to. You just put up a new stadium.
They don't deserve it.
But you could say that problem with the Marlins extends to the Pirates, extends to how many other teams?
Yeah,
the Rockies, teams that will not spend the money.
That draw fans, but won't spend.
So I like the Rays. I really do. I'm rooting for the Rays.
I like the organization.
Yes.
The way they're run. But they don't have any money or support.
It's probably me being biased because that's where Joe Madden came from, who, of course, gave me my one lone championship.
Yeah, but they are usually competitive in the East.
Despite the huge payrolls that the Red Sox and the Yankees and even the Blue Jays put out there.
And occasionally the Orioles. But the Rays know how to draft and develop players. They just can't keep them because they can't pay them.
Right. A couple other minor transactions that happen in baseball. You say Kikuchi.
I say Kukachi.
Potato, potato.
Tomato, tomato.
Let's call the whole thing off. Gets a 3-year, $63 million deal from the Los Angeles Angels.
Angels spending again.
Angels are making a lot of interesting moves here. Not big splashy moves. But they, of course, brought in Kyle Hendricks, brought in Travis d'Arnaud. They're bringing in those third-tier guys. Now, Kikuchi's more of a second-tier pitcher.
They're trying to make things interesting.
But the problem is,
it won't help.
You've got an anchor on your payroll and in your lineup called Mike Trout.
You've got two anchors in your lineup.
With Rendon as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will say Rendon is probably the bigger anchor. Because he's should typically been more healthy, but just doesn't play.
Doesn't want to play. He's admitted as much.
Yeah, he doesn't want to play. You know what? That's a breach of contract. You cut him and don't have to pay him. If he's refusing to play, doesn't want to play, breach of contract. Boom, done. Bye-bye.
I wish you could do that. God, I wish you could do that.
He is the poster child for this.
And then a couple lower level teams making moves. Kansas City, the Royals, with a plethora, an overabundance of pitching talent. The Royals trade Brady Singer to the Reds for former Rookie of the Year Jonathan India plus one other player. I don't root for the Reds because they're in my division. I root for the Royals too. I want to see the Royals succeed. But again, another small
I don't.
market. Well, they're in your division.
For the fact that fucking Chris Getz was with the Royals organization, brought in the dipshit manager Grafal from the Royals organization, and hired half the staff from the Royals organization to be with the White Sox. Fuck the Royals, fuck Jerry Reinsdorf, and fuck Chris Getz to hell.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel, Dave?
I'm not happy with how the Chicago White Sox are being run as an organization.
Yeah, and our team, how about how quiet our teams have been so far?
Oh, I knew the Sox weren't going to do shit.
And I'm already hearing.
And you've got an owner who put how much money into rebuilding Wrigley, put in how much money to win a World Series. And now he's tightened the purse strings to the point where, it's like the Tribune Company all over again. Why?
Now, the one thing I'm hearing that I'm liking is that they have got Bellinger out there on the market, and they're saying, basically, give us
a bag of balls for him.
Yeah.
Take him and his contract.
Just take the contract. That's all we want. Take the contract so we have more flexibility.
You get that off the books, then maybe you can make a run at Soto. Legitimately.
Yeah, I doubt that. Santander is the one I'm looking at. I want him. Because what have I told you? The one thing this lineup lacks is a 40 home run hitter. I want a guy who can jack the ball out 40 times a year. Because none of these other idiots can do it. We need that big bopper. Yes, Soto would fit that bill, but Santander's going to cost a lot less. Still going to cost a pretty penny, but a lot less than Soto. And that would still leave you money left over.
For pitching?
If you get rid of Bellinger's contract, then you can go after Corbin Burns as well. And he has a history with Craig Counsell. That would be my dream. Trade Bellinger, get him out, bring in Santander, bring in Corbin Burns.
There you go. That would work for you.
But they won't do any of it. They'll trade Bellinger and then do nothing.
They'll go cheap again.
Yeah.
They'll get a bunch of third-tier guys with just above WARs and hope everybody overachieves. Yeah, how's that worked the last 3 fucking years? Jed Hoyer, you're a disaster.
And what did I tell you when I saw the news when we were going to the concert a couple weeks ago? When I saw the news about Kyle Hendricks. And What did I tell you? I had you guess. Said, how much do you think the Angels paid for him? And you started off at $10 million. $2.5 million. They couldn't afford $3 million? Outbid the Angels $3 million for Kyle Hendricks?
Yeah, 3, 2 and 3/4 would have gotten him back in.
Bring him back for two
as a fifth starter.
$2.75 million. So that tells me, once again, they're going to go on the cheap.
And we discussed Jed Hoyer, his explanation for the lack of Cubs offense last season. The wind wasn't blowing out consistently enough. It was a weather issue. That's where his lineup. That was his thinking.
That's pathetic.
That's what he said repeatedly. It was the weather. The wind just wasn't blowing out for us.
He does realize that works for both teams, right?
Yeah, he's an idiot. He has no business being in charge of a baseball organization.
Yeah, so the hot stove league for both of us
sucks.
Really holds very little, if any, promise.
Yeah, there's no water in the pot to boil.
Now, last week when we did the show, we had all but one of the major awards covered. This week, even though it's 6 days in the past, we do have to acknowledge our unanimous AL and NL MVPs. Aaron Judge wins his second AL MVP. Shohei Ohtani wins his third overall. Of course, joining, I believe, Frank Robinson is the only players to win in both leagues.
Yep.
Not shocking in any way, shape, or form with these two.
No.
Now, the only thing is, Aaron Judge needs to start playing well in the postseason.
Yeah, Judge could have easily lost this in the postseason.
Now, technically, you could say the same thing about Ohtani.
He did. He disappeared in the postseason.
He was on a better team, or at least a cohesive team, with Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts.
Freeman and Betts overshone Ohtani.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
So even though Aaron Judge will get all the grief and the New York fans giving him a hard time about not being a clutch player in the playoffs, much like they did for years with Alex Rodriguez.
Yep, deservedly so.
Shohei Ohtani, once again, seems like he's sliding away from controversy, sliding away from the bad stuff. He should be held accountable.
He needs to be held to that standard.
He's like Teflon. Nothing sticks to him. Gambling controversies.
All
the deferred money, not playing well in the World Series, but somehow still getting a ring.
Yakuza. Sorry, I had a little something in my throat there.
Yeah. Then finally, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Looking ahead to spring training. We are going to have multiple ballparks, multiple teams in spring training on the major league level testing the robo-umps. What you're going to get is you're not replacing the umpires on the field or the one behind home plate, but this will set up a challenge system.
This sets up the balls and strikes. I still think the robo-ump needs to call balls and strikes.
But what this is doing is setting up a challenge system. You will get 2 challenges per game when it comes to balls and strikes. If you're right, you get your challenge, you retain it. You're basically going to have somebody up in the booth watching, like you said, the box.
Yep.
And when they see a pitch that on the field, a crucial point in the game, gets called a strike or gets called a ball,
they need to be able to come down and say, nope, that was not. You need like I said with the NFL, you need the crew chief watching everything and overriding those on the field. If it's coming from your crew chief, that holds more weight than a challenge from a coach or manager.
The NFL, I will give them credit for this. The NFL smartly now has the guys upstairs that will come in and say, no. Expedited challenge. The coaches don't have to waste a red flag.
They don't do it enough. They need to do it all the time.
Well, the problem is, and we know the NFL isn't going to go there, is the problem is you really need to start doing this with penalties. Not holding, not things on the offensive line of scrimmage or the defensive line of scrimmage, but I still think pass interference, illegal contact, roughing the passer need to be reviewable plays.
Yeah. How many bad roughing the passer calls have we seen? How many non-roughing the passer calls have we seen? And I'm sorry, egregious holding needs to be thrown in there. When you've got somebody being jerked backwards from being a part of the play and it's allowed to go, I hate that. Hate it with a passion. That cannot just be let go as part of, it's near the end of the game, we'll let everything go. No, that's not how it works.
Well, and we've had, 2 massive missed face mask calls
Oh my
at the
God!
end of the game.
Horrible!
Sam Darnold and Joe Burrow, both at the
Face
end
mask
of big,
badly.
crucial games.
Where
Sam Darnold's
obvious.
head was actually turned around.
Yeah.
And they didn't call it. That's got to be something that comes down from the booth and they say, no, you got to throw a flag on that.
Yeah, face masks, boom. They all have got to come from above. Oh, it's frustrating.
I know that
the technology now is there.
And you have to take baby steps because we know there's holding on every goddamn play.
But the most egregious ones. I know the little chip on, that's fine. But I'm talking the guys who are literally being pulled backwards. Who have got position. And have a free run.
I just don't know how far in the weeds they're going to want to go with it. Because, as we've talked about, they tried it with pass interference. The officials basically rebelled.
They balked at it badly.
And would not review those plays. And they basically, after a year, killed it.
Yeah, well, that's where the officials need to be held accountable. And said, you're fired. We'll bring somebody else in.
Oh, you and I have talked about that for years on all the major leagues.
Yeah.
Baseball, football, basketball, hockey. Enough with the unions.
Yeah.
Enough with the goddamn unions. If somebody is bad at their job, Angel Hernandez.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. And the fact that asshole tried to sue for discrimination.
That is
he was an awful, legendary, bad umpire.
Historically horrific.
And then he tries to turn around and say it's racism?
No, you're just bad at your job, dumbass.
All right, let's move on to NASCAR and racing. Because believe it or not, we still got a lot of racing news, despite the fact that NASCAR season has been done for weeks and weeks. Daniel Hemrick dropping back to the Truck Series. Ty Dillon, of course, took his ride at K-Leg Racing. So Hemrick got, 1 year, and that was it?
Yeah, and so we're bringing Ty Dillon it, really?
And this is something, again, you and I talk about every week.
Nepo babies.
The lack of good, solid drivers. I still don't understand why Justin Allgaier can't get a full-time Cup ride.
No kidding. Ugh.
JTG Dougherty Racing has rebranded itself as Hayek Motorsports. Hayek is some kind of I think an Eskimo term for fast, or Native American, something like that.
Hatui! Sorry.
Come on, we got Steel Panther on the weekend edition. Let's hold off on that stuff.
The EBDBB&B?
Chevy sweeps the manufacturer championships for the second consecutive year, the sixth time overall. They have swept throughout all three levels of NASCAR in a calendar year. This shit, I can't stand it. Chase Elliott is the most popular driver for the seventh time. Why don't we just call him the NASCAR prom king and be done with it? Because that's all this bullshit is.
It's whoever has the fans that will sit there for 24 hours until they're dead, hitting enter. How many damn times did his dad win it? Yeah. His dad wasn't that popular of a driver.
Yeah, I think they said basically between the Elliots and the Earnhardts, we haven't had anybody outside of those two families.
Dale Sr.'s only won it like once.
But like you said, Bill Elliott won it multiple times.
Yeah.
It's a stupid award.
It's
stupid award.
It's dumb as hell.
Why don't we have best looking driver? Why don't we have stupid shit like that? If we're going to have most popular.
So dumb.
Most likely to succeed.
Gee, you know how you determine most popular driver? Most merch sold. Oh. There's a thought for you.
Dale Earnhardt Sr. to win every year.
Still.
Yeah. From the grave. All right. The Circuit of the Americas layout is changing.
Shortening it up.
In 2025, the full course down to what they call the national course. So it will
Whatever. Fucking lame.
It will go from 3.41 miles down to 2.3. We will see an increase in laps from 68 to approximately 100, but both courses still have 20 turns. I don't know if that's worthy of the horn of disgrace.
I'm sick of all this bullshit change for the sake of change.
I don't have a problem with this so much as I have with the fact we're going to have to deal with the in-season tournament like the NBA next year.
In-season tournaments are stupid. They're pointless and useless.
So
nobody cares. Fans don't give a shit.
Them changing the COTA layout is very, very low on my list of things that piss me off with sports.
I needed to throw the horn of disgrace in. Change for the sake of change. Always will get it.
Then, of course, we move to F1. Probably for the last time this year. Las Vegas Grand Prix. George Russell wins, but Max Verstappen clinched his 4th straight F1 championship.
Blech.
And then, if you care, General Motors will be joining F1 in 2026.
Yeah, gee. Funny how that came about. Andretti Motorsports is getting the GM factory team because Michael has stepped out of the lead role. F1 holds a fucking grudge.
I don't watch F1 because it's just garbage.
It is. It's trash. But the way this all came down, oh, you want to get in? Well, you can't be the principal of your own team if you want to be a part of this. So they had to reorganize. Absolute bullshit. Fuck Formula One.
I don't understand what you think there's corruption in racing, Dave?
Shit. Just look at NASCAR.
Oh, and by the way, the two teams that are still looking to break up the charter system refiled their injunction request.
Yep.
So I don't want to get. One thing I realized this week, I don't want to start getting into the legal weeds on a lot of this stuff because I don't want to pretend like Hollywood assholes that I know more than I do. So I read that and I was like, should we really make that a big topic? I'm like, no.
No.
I'm not a lawyer. I only play one on a podcast.
Because what we can honestly say about the legal system in this country is it's fucked up and stupid and makes no sense whatsoever.
All right, let's move on to basketball. Talk a little bit of basketball.
Basketball, Joan?
Not much in the way of the NBA, although I am happy, very happy with the way the Magic are playing. I believe they're playing.
You were just ridiculing them.
Well, it took them about a week and a half to find their footing with Paolo Banchero out. But Franz Wagner has stepped up big time, and now they are back on a roll. They are 12-7, I believe, playing the Chicago Bulls tonight down in the Magic Kingdom.
They won 133-119.
So that's 13-7 for my Orlando Magic. They are pretty much unbeatable at home. Literally, they could put out Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and win.
And Daphne.
Yeah.
Or Daffy.
Yeah, but on the road...
No, wait, Daffy's part of the Warner Brothers, never mind.
Goofy.
Goofy.
That's Disney, right? Goofy.
Yeah, Goofy. Goofy, Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Porky. No, Porky's Warner Brothers.
It's okay. We love the Looney Tunes a lot more.
Than the Disney.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Every day that goes by, I hate the Rat more and more, and the bullshit they pull.
Yes.
Well, we were talking about the changes at NASCAR with COTA, and you were talking about change for change's sake just sucks. Hey, Dave, they're changing the All-Star game again in the NBA.
Does anybody really give a fuck?
Now they're going to have 4 teams in the NBA All-Star game.
Oh, so they're mimicking what the NHL did.
They're going to play a pickup-style tournament.
So they're kind of mimicking what the NHL had done.
So you're going to have 3 teams of all-star players, and then the 4th team will be what they call the future squad, the young players.
Oh, God.
The first and second year players. And then they're going to play a tournament amongst those 4 teams, leading to an eventual champion. See, that deserves the horn of disgrace. But you know what doesn't? I'm not going to give them a Badass of the Week award for this, but because they're just doing their job. But finally, the NBA, Adam Silver, the alien, starting to show more balls than Rob Manfred ever had.
Oh, is his silver balls from Phantasm finally dropped?
The NBA fined the Hawks $100,000 for sitting Trae Young in a cup game when they determined he was healthy and eligible to play.
Good. Good.
We need to see more of this.
That's a good first infraction penalty. It needs to be doubled each subsequent penalty.
And this is the problem with the NBA. I don't want to see it creep into the NFL. I don't want to see it creep into these other sports where...
Oh, baseball's already bad enough with, we're going to have our Sunday lineup out there. Yeah, well, how about all the families who can only get there?
Pitchers
No, position players on Sundays. Your starting position players usually get Sundays off.
No. That's horn of disgrace material. All right, let's move on to college basketball, which is starting to ramp up here, get into full swing. Again, another situation where I could have made this a Clint Eastwood Badass of the Week, but I really don't like the guy, so I'm not going to. That would be one Gino Auriemma for his 1,217th career coaching victory, number 1 all-time, regardless of men or women.
Yeah, he's been pretty fucking dominant at UConn.
I will get into this later at the end of the show. But I am going to have another rant about how much I hate college basketball coaches. And they're all, male or female, they all
suck.
Insufferable assholes. We'll get to it a little bit more at the end.
That again, I had something caught in my throat.
All right. On the women's side, poor Dawn Staley, racist bitch! The 43-game winning streak for the South Carolina game, Cox, was snapped. Do they call the women's team the Lady Cox? What
The game hens?
The game hens. A fine meal to have for all of you single people out there on Thanksgiving, by the way. I was going to have one, but I decided on a pork tenderloin.
There you go. You didn't want a nice juicy breast? A supple thigh?
I would like 2. but that would make me think once again of Steel Panther. which we will discuss on the weekend edition. Two breasts. So South Carolina, poor Dawn Staley. Her 43-game win streak was snapped by the UCLA Bruins. Wasn't even close, 77-62. So UCLA, the Lady Bruins move up to number 1. UConn number 2. Notre Dame number 3 after a big win over USC.
Yes. So.
Good for them. Very good for them. Moving on to the men. Notre Dame and Miami, both depressingly awful this past week. My Miami Hurricanes really embarrassed themselves as they dropped to 3-3, losing to Drake, VCU, and Oklahoma State.
Eesh.
Notre Dame 4-2, losing to Elon.
How do you lose to Elon?
And then Rutgers. So no shame in losing to Rutgers, by the
No,
way.
but Elon? Come on.
But I do want to talk about the tournament for a minute here, where Notre Dame lost to Rutgers. Notre Dame participating along with Rutgers and 6 other teams in a tournament called the Players Era Festival out in Las Vegas.
More bullshit money grab?
This is technically, but not technically, the first ever tournament where teams are getting indirectly NIL money.
Oh,
8 teams in the tournament, as I mentioned, including Notre Dame and Rutgers, who beat them, are in this tournament. $9 million in NIL money up for grabs. Each team guaranteed $1 million in nil money, and then there's an extra $1 million up for grabs. How they work around this being pay for play, which is still illegal, is that every school takes the payment, not the players.
the school gets the money.
And then they
And
distribute
then,
it to
if their images and names are used in
Autograph
advertising,
signings.
autographs, then you get blah, blah,
the...
blah.
They decide how to split
Oh
schools.
my God, this is bullshit. This is bullshit.
You might say Dave and I are Chicken Little, but the
It's
sky is
over.
falling.
It's done. Fuck it. It's all over.
Yeah.
Screw it. No more scholarships. Just fucking pay them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're going to give them the scholarships and then pay them, which
No,
I am completely...
No
100%.
scholarships. No more scholarships. Sorry, done. If you're not letting the walk-ons anymore, done. No more. If they're going to college, you're paying them to play, they have to give the money back in tuition.
You know I agree with that. I don't understand
Straight
why it's such a hard concept to figure out that we should be giving the scholarship money to people who want to actually be engineers and doctors and lawyers instead of giving it to basketball and football players and then paying them on top of it.
Gee, now, if when they graduate and they're done with their pro careers, if they had solid enough grades to come back for their advanced degrees, then maybe they can earn a scholarship to continue on. But
If they actually show they want to learn, if they want to actually use the opportunity
they want to learn,
to get an education.
if they want to come back and get their education and complete their degrees, then give them the scholarship. I have no problem with that. But if they're there to play, they still need to go to class and pass. But if they're being paid to play, they have to pay their full tuition.
You know I agree with you on that. 100%.
I don't care if it's private or state.
All right, let's move on to hockey. You want to talk about your wonderful Blackhawks?
Sitting at 7-12-2, 16 points, and still in last place.
In the entire NHL.
NHL.
I'm sorry.
And Connor Bedard is frustrated things are not falling his way. We've seen NHL coaches being fired and replaced.
Didn't they fire the Bruins head coach and then he got picked up a week later by another team?
Yep. Why is Richardson still the head coach of the Blackhawks? They are doing nothing with him there. It's still the same old bullshit. How about you bring in somebody else with a little more gravitas?
Now, we are in the midst of possibly one of the greatest records of all time falling, but not quite yet because of injury. Alex Ovechkin, in his quest to pass Wayne Gretzky for the all-time goals record, right? Goals or points? I think it's goals.
Might be goals.
I think it's goals. Alex Ovechkin.
Goals.
But Ovechkin is now out 4 to 6 weeks with a fractured fibula, putting his quest, his chase to top the great one on hold.
What is it we always say? Records are made to be broken?
As long as you're not changing the rules. Like with football, it's so hard to compare rules.
Because you've increased the number of games so many damn times.
You've gone from 14 to 16 to 17. So even if Saquon Barkley were to set the rushing record, he's got an extra game to do it. And we've talked about quarterbacks from the 70s and the 80s never had a chance to stand up against the quarterbacks now who have 17 games. They're going to throw for 4,500 yards like it's nothing.
Well, it's a wide open quarterback. The quarterback position is so much different today.
Well, the rule changes, yeah.
With the rule changes than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yeah,
it's
if you
ridiculous.
look, a quarterback who threw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in the 70s, that was legendary.
Yeah.
And now you've got to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Otherwise,
minimum.
Your team's probably losing.
So you extrapolate that. What would Marino's numbers look like?
Always agree on that.
What would his numbers look like? How many 400-yard games did he have? Would he now have that many 500-yard games? Would he be flirting over 6 in these prolific pass offenses now?
You and I, that's one of the things you and I always agree on, is number one, Dan Marino was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, regardless of the fact that he didn't win a Super Bowl.
He never had a running game.
You cannot overlook the pure talent and ability that Dan Marino had. And there are some other people out there who agree with us. All right, other fringe little sports and news and things like that before we start to wrap things up here. A show that I used to love. Absolutely love. I used to watch the ESPN run there around dinner time with Around the Horn. And pardon the interruption, before Around the Horn became political and they let idiots like Mina Kimes in there when I stopped watching it at that point. But Around the Horn is coming to an end, which is shocking to me in this day and age where you're looking for more and more content. I joke about how many fantasy football shows I watch, how many morning sports talk shows I watch.
40.
And they're going to end Around the Horn? Around the Horn is going to come to an end at some point, probably mid-2025.
Probably because it's become political and people don't want to watch that shit anymore.
Yep, 23-year run, though. Pretty impressive.
That was pretty damn
for Around the Horn. I liked it in the old days when it was Tim Calishaw and Bob Ryan, Woody Page.
They had some good stuff going on.
It was a spin-off on the
sports reporters out of Chicago.
With Gleason and Tellender, yeah.
Yeah.
In soccer, in women's soccer.
Why?
Just because it's Orlando. Orlando is my adopted second home. The Orlando Pride won the NWSL championship in one of the most dominant seasons ever.
Bully for them.
And then in tennis.
So does that mean if you were still down there, you would have had season tickets?
No. You're funny. You're funny, man. You make me laugh long time. No.
So why are you bringing it up?
You're funny. I would have tried to get Magic tickets, though.
Well, that goes without saying.
All right, in tennis, wrapping up the year. I believe we're wrapping up the year with this. The Davis Cup and the Billie Jean King Cup. Of course, men's and women's. Italy won both. So congrats to Italy. Moment of silence. One moment of silence, taking us back to the days when baseball was great. Going back to 1970. Rico Carty played for the Atlanta Braves. He was the 1970 National League batting champion. Dave, guess what his batting average was?
350?
Higher.
360?
Higher.
380?
No, 366.
Wow.
Which we never see.
You'll never see that again.
In this day and age. And Rico Carty, when we think of those high batting averages, we always bring up Tony Gwynn and George Brett and Rod Carew. Rico Carty, back in 1970, hit 366 for the Braves. And unfortunately, Rico Carty has left us, so our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and his friends.
Yep. Way to go, Uncle Rico. Sorry.
Vote for Pedro. Yeah.
I couldn't resist.
Vote for Pedro. Go! No, I'm with you on that. All right. We're going to rip through our Red Foreman dumbasses of the week here because Dave will be mad because I actually have 7.
You picked angry again.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, the weekend edition only has 3. Okay?
All right, it balances out.
So we're going to start off with the media. Specifically, Yahoo's Tom Haberstraw, one of their countless number of expert columnists. This particular gentleman writes about the NBA as he's trying to solve the problems because ratings are tanking. We told you so.
There's a shock.
We fucking told you so. So how do we fix the NBA? Everybody's bored with these games. All people do is step behind the three-point line and throw up three-pointers. How do we fix the game?
Nobody plays defense.
Well, Mr. Haberstraw thinks he's come up with a solution.
More in-game tournaments? Or in-season tournaments?
Why don't we make dunks worth 3 points?
Oh, what a fucking idiot.
That's why he's nominated for the Red Foreman Dumbass of the Week.
Dumbass.
He actually...
That has got to be one
And then he was shocked. He was shocked when he bounced it off of executives.
That's got to be the
NBA
most
teams.
fucktarded idea I've ever heard for the NBA.
Yeah, he was shocked when all these anonymous executives he bounced the idea off of said, no, how would that work?
You moron. What a dip fuck.
All right, we have tried, despite all the insanity around the Kansas City Chiefs, to stand by Patrick Mahomes and say that he has, for the most part, stayed away from the idiocy of his wife, his brother, his coach, his tight end. He made a little bit of a misstep. Looks like...
Wonderowski!
Oh, God. Don't say that! I hate that! Who's the idiot marketing genius who decides that State Farm commercials should feature the idiot with his nuggies and great googly moogly and now Bondarooski?
Andy Reid should not be in any fucking commercial because he's a piece of garbage.
No, he should be in all the commercials he wants to be in, and every single penny should go to the family of the girl whose life his son destroyed. But Patrick Mahomes did one of those celebrations with the guns, using his hands as guns. So the NFL had to fine him $14,000.
Well, at least they're consistent.
But yes, the golden child of the NFL is not perfect.
And I've told you the last time somebody was fined for that, I think it's stupid to fine them. Sorry.
No, I don't. You in this world with the prevalence of guns and gangs out there, I don't want my players in my league using guns as some kind of a celebratory gesture. No. I think it should, I want to go back to the point in time where none of this crap was allowed.
No celebrations at all?
No, I love the No Fun League. Absolutely loved it. Because it's a fucking business. You do your job. Like Barry Sanders, you act like you've been there before when you score a touchdown.
If you're going to let them celebrate, don't penalize them for celebrating. You open the can of worms by allowing the elaborate celebrations.
So why don't you just, why don't you have a hooker come on the field and have a guy basically bend her over and start grinding on her and say, oh, that's okay. If you're going to allow gun stuff, then let's allow all the sexual stuff too. Right? Open up all the can of worms.
Then ban it all.
That's fine with me. I would be fine with that.
That's what I want to see. I hate all of these choreographed celebrations from everybody. Done over.
This is what social media has done. They're trying to get on YouTube and on Instagram and get likes and thumbs up.
Yeah, and I still don't get why. I get why the gun stuff is being penalized. There are other celebrations that get penalized that I have no idea why they're being penalized for as excessive when they allow all the bullshit touchdown crap.
I just think
what is
choreographed celebrations are stupid.
That is the ultimate in taunting. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm fine with that. Throw a flag for taunting. I'm fine with that.
Jumping and doing the whole group high five. That's one thing. That's fine. Celebrating.
Spiking the ball. Whatever happened to just spiking the ball?
Guys celebrating, holding each other up, running off the field. That's fine. Even in college, I don't have a problem with that. I hate that, unsportsmanlike, excessive celebration. I'm sorry, it was a big fucking moment.
I still don't think you and I are on the same page on this. See, I'm going all the way back to Terrell Owens, who had a Sharpie stashed.
That's ridiculous.
In the field goal post.
That's staged, that's ridiculous crap. The spontaneity stuff.
And you can say I am all for the No Fun League, but you could translate this to the normal workplace. We all hate the asshole who actually does his or her job and then accomplish something like landing on the moon. You did your fucking job. You get paid for it. Congratulations. Move on to the next project. Don't act like you've done something miraculous. And that's how I feel about the football players and the basketball players.
There are moments where, yes,
the most overrated play to me is a dunk in basketball.
Oh, the dunk is ridiculous.
Put the fucking ball through the hoop for 2 points.
Don't hang on it.
Oh, but I gotta do a 360 double windmill jam. And now they're gonna grade them.
Stupid. Dumb.
And as much as I love my man, Dr. J, he was the one that started it. Beautiful, graceful dunks, and now everybody's taken it and ruined it.
Gotta take it to
Michael
the next
Jordan,
level.
simple dunks. Take off from the free throw line, tongue out, bam. No, now I gotta jump over 5 people and
now I gotta
car
spin
at the free throw line and.
How about we just do away with the dunk contests? Oh wait, we're off topic.
Let's stick with football. Let's stick with pampered superstars. One Shedeur Sanders.
This isn't surprising he's on this list, given who his father is.
In the frustrating loss to Kansas, which we talked about here a while back, shoving a referee in the middle of a scrum, in the middle of a melee.
He should have been.
I would not touch this kid with a 10-foot pole if I was an NFL general manager.
And what happened to Mr. Sanders after that happened?
Nothing.
His ass should have been ejected from the game.
Because we sit here,
Isn't that what's supposed to happen?
we talked about Patrick Mahomes getting fined, whether you agree with it or not, for the gun celebration. The NCAA doesn't have the power to do that.
That's ridiculous. Officials are not to be touched.
The only thing they can do is if they feel with the targeting, on-field behavior that could injure another player is the only extent to which they can act.
That's ridiculous.
ESPN, we just talked about, they're canceling around the horn, but somehow they're giving Jason Kelsey a limited run with a late-night talk show.
I am so fucking sick of Jason fucking Kelsey.
I'm sick of both of them. I'm sick of all of them. I'm sick of the mother. I'm sick of Taylor Swift. I'm sick of all of it. And their stupid cereal commercials. And the chunky commercials. I'm tired of all of it.
Go away, Kelseys. Nobody likes you.
They're not that funny. They're not that charismatic.
They've got nothing.
They're a couple of oafs.
They're two doofuses.
And I frankly wonder about Taylor Swift and her taste in men. He's a moron. I'm sorry. He strikes me as a moron. And the brother's worse. And they give the brother it's only going to be a limited run, though.
God
only
help us.
From early January through early February at 1 a.m. Friday nights. Still.
Guess what I'm not watching?
Now we got to get a little more serious. A little more serious. And we're going to ramp it up as we just got a few minutes left here. Let's start off with the President of the United States. Thank God for not much longer.
Isn't he usually in the weekend edition?
Yes, but this is sports related. Because he recently had the world champion Boston Celtics to the White House to celebrate their title.
Fucking took long enough.
Oh, they always wait like months and months and months. First up, I don't think it's a funny joke if it was a joke, but with Joe Biden, you never know. He turned around as he was starting his little speech, his soliloquy, and said, "You are the Boston Celtics, right?" And then he proceeded to tell everyone in the free world his Secret Service code name, which of course is Celtic. Because, you know, I'm Irish.
God, this senile fucktard. Oh, Lord have mercy.
And nobody seems to get upset about the fact that he exposed his Secret Service code name. Why is that not a bigger deal?
Because he's almost done.
All right. Couple of people that I hate beyond belief. One you will disagree with me on. One I think you will 100% agree with me on. Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor found I don't understand the justice system in Ireland. Let me start off with that.
How about we don't understand the justice system anywhere?
Conor McGregor is found liable of sexual assault in a court in Ireland. No criminal implications, by the way. Never brought to trial on criminal charges for this sexual assault. But he's found liable in civil court and is ordered to pay this woman that he sexually assaulted and terrorized a whopping $257,000. And this, believe it or not, happened in December of 2018. So
the wheels of justice grind slowly. And we've seen this, where if it was a hung jury or whatever, we've seen crap happen
Appeals.
Criminally, but civilly, other judgments are rendered.
So you terrorized, choked a woman to the point where the physician who took her after the incident looked at it and said, I have never seen bruising on a throat like this in my life.
And you were cleared criminally?
No charges ever brought. Not enough evidence.
How?
And so her life...
Fuck the legal systems! Fuck the legal systems!
$257,000 is what it was worth.
That's all her life is worth.
Now, thank God, a lot of the sponsors that he has worked with are dropping him.
Good. Get him
this.
the fuck out. I'm sick of Conor fucking McGregor. The guy is a scuzzball.
I think he's a thug beyond belief. I'm going just beyond thug to the point where I think he's tied in. He's tied
a fucking
in.
criminal.
I think he's tied in because on top of all this, I'm not done yet. On top of all this, this woman showed so much guts, so much bravery. A few months before this sentence was handed down, her partner was stabbed as they were assaulted in a home invasion. They were threatened. He's part of a mob. He is part...
Oh, he's probably part of the Irish mob.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, he's connected. Or he just has that much money and can pay his cohorts to go out and do this shit.
But, I mean, the bravery, the guts of this woman.
Good.
To
Fuck
follow
Conor
this
McGregor.
To follow this all the way to the end. But still, this paltry little, and we've talked about this in the past.
This is a pittance. This is disgusting.
Judging people's trauma in their lives with a monetary figure is disgusting to begin with. But the fact that all this, and then she's threatened, and her partner is stabbed.
It's bullshit.
And that she gets $250,000 from this piece of garbage.
Ridiculous.
Now, finally, this is where you'll disagree with me. I think. I fucking hate Dan Hurley. I hate him.
His actions at this tournament were fucking egregious. This went overboard. Yes, he's a good coach, but his antics against the officials, his over-emoting, it's done. I'm sick of it.
Of course, we're talking about the Maui Invitational where he went ballistic in overtime as UConn lost to Memphis. Did not like an over-the-back call. But if he had not lost his fucking mind and been the most petulant, immature piece of garbage
if he
on the face of the earth,
fallen to the floor in mock agastment, he wouldn't have been teed up. And they wouldn't have been shooting 4 fucking free throws. So he's the reason UConn lost that game.
And of course he has to, in his typical mature way, in the post-game press conference, when asked why they lost the game, he said because of shitty calls. He is a wonderful role model for all these young men, isn't he? He's an idiot.
He's a good basketball coach, but he's a shithead individual.
And I'll tell you what, I'd be a hypocrite. If I had a son who was a great player and UConn right now recruited him, it'd be hard for me to say no. But boy, I would think about it based on the fact that I don't know what kind of influence this guy would have on my son.
I would have to have a long, hard talk with my son.
And
before,
Mr. Hurley. If
Yes.
he wanted him this bad, I would have to have a face-to-face with him.
We're going toe-to-toe. Guaranteed. You will not act like a fucking asshole on the sidelines.
Yeah.
You are not setting an example for these players.
You need to take anger management courses.
Exactly.
And I'll make a prediction right now. Right now.
He's going to be suspended at some point this year.
I tell you, within 5 years, something's going to happen in a criminal court. He's going to do something off the court. I don't know if he's going to beat up a hooker. I don't know what he's going to do. And I'm not joking. I'm serious. He's got problems like Conor McGregor does. There's something wrong with this man.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a Bob Huggins situation where Bob Huggins would drink himself almost into a stupor every night. How many times did he get a DUI? Yeah. Driving his car off the road. Or it's going to be a Rick Pitino where he's going to be fucking a waitress over a table and completely ignoring her and the kid and acting like he did nothing wrong. This is the kind of
Or a Bobby Petrino accident.
We could go on and on with all these different coaches. I hate Dan Hurley. Like you said, great head coach, but with X's and O's. He's a terrible human being.
He's an asshole.
Terrible human being.
Asshole.
Now I'm going to add a little levity to this before we make our final judgment.
Surprised you, didn't I?
I know you like UConn.
I like you, not the women's program. I can't stand Gino, but I
take Gino over Dan Hurley.
Oh yeah, but I go back to Calhoun building that program up.
Little levity here to make things take the edge off before we make our final judgment. So they lost to Memphis. Penny Hardaway, of course, former Orlando Magic star. Then, the next night, they had to lose again to Colorado. So they lost to two unranked teams.
Back-to-back losses.
Do you know who hit the game-winning shot for Colorado?
Who?
A young gentleman named Andrei Jakimovsky. I'm not kidding. Look it up. I'm not kidding.
Isn't there a Steel Panther song in there somewhere?
If not, there should be. We should send that. Get them on the horn right now. Send them an email. Send them a text.
Jakimovsky handles his balls. He shoots.
Andrei. Now, of course, people are saying, well, you're not saying it right. It's Jakimovsky. Shut up! It's Jakimovsky. That's how it's spelled.
Jakimovsky shoots his load all over the place. He shoots over the... Oh, we're writing this for him.
Yep. All right, so we have to make a decision, Dave. Yahoo's Tom Haberstraw for his idea about three-point dunks.
That's so fucking dumb.
Conor McGregor, Pat Mahomes, Shedeur Sanders, our great and glorious President Joe Biden, ESPN and Jason Kelsey's late-night talk show, or UConn head coach Dan Hurley. Who is your dumbass of the week?
God, it's between three. McGregor, Sanders, and Hurley. Oh.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on two of the three. I've got the two.
Got it.
I hate to say this.
It's Hurley and McGregor.
Yeah. I hate to say this because
it's Hurley and McGregor.
The McGregor stuff is more sickening, but in this world, as you said, in the legal system, it doesn't shock me.
No, it's got to be Hurley because here's a guy who's supposed to be molding the youth, these college players.
Turned down the big deal from the Lakers to stay at UConn, and this is what you get.
And this is what you get. It's got to go to Hurley.
I'm with you on that. Dan Hurley.
It has to be. Dan Hurley is the fucking dumbass of the week. Dare I say, going through security at the Sports Frenzy Airport.
I would like to see him stop blaming everybody else and take some personal responsibility and say,
how about
I'm
stop
not
acting
behaving
like...
I'm not behaving the way I should, being somebody who's leading young men.
Yeah.
But he never will.
No. He's got it. He's got issues. He's insecure. He's in line for security at Sports Frenzy International.
I will stick by my prediction. 5 years he will be in handcuffs for something.
Yep.
5 years he'll be in handcuffs.
Am I wrong?
He has got problems.
He does. In line at Sports Frenzy International.
Not on the plane yet.
No, he's in line for security, though.
Yeah. All right. Don't forget to check out the weekend edition. Dave and I will discuss U2. Of course, Steel Panther. We've only referenced them 47 times during this episode. I have a double movie review for you.
I have a first episode of a little mini-series.
Okay. Along with our normal shows, for the most part. I will admit I stumbled on one of them, did not get to watch it this week, but we have our 3 or 4 rotating shows that we've been watching. We'll discuss those. I have big news in the horror front. Horror movie front.
A24?
That Dave will absolutely love.
As he says with extreme sarcasm.
Lots of movie and TV streaming news. Do not miss the weekend edition, because you're going to need it after Thursday night with all the fucktard liberal relatives.
Yes, this will be your Thanksgiving weekend hangover cure.
Yes. Do not miss it. Saturday morning, all over the place. Dave's already listed all of our podcast platforms. We got to get out of here, take a break, and then we got to turn right around and record the weekend edition.
That's right.
So until then, he's your Uncle Dave.
He's your Uncle Kev.
Say goodnight to the kids, Dave.
Good night to the kids, Dave.